Mary. Y'all know her. Y'all heard her voice before. Somewhere, somehow. We just gonna wait till she get in the booth. Where she go wild.
Yeah, right.
Like Clark Kent, got the glasses on.
A lot of them got killed as a result of that record, though. On both sides.
So that record caused a lot of murders.
A lot of murders. Girls, guys.
Hawk, D-Braze, Laniac, man, Spider, Bloody Mary, all of them are gone. Except me, all of them are gone. All of them are gone.
She never hit the Billboard charts and never earned a platinum plaque. But ask any real hip-hop head about Bloody Mary and they'll tell you she was the truth.
Nene in the Flesh, on the full clip, new record.
Yeah.
We just gonna wait till she get in the booth. Where she go wild.
Yeah, right.
Like Clark Kent, got the glasses on.
She had the bars, the grit, the voice, and the presence to shut down rooms. To this day, people still say she delivered one of the hardest verses ever dropped in gangsta rap. But her talent never got the shine it deserved in the mainstream. To understand why, you gotta look at where Rajni Falk came from and how far she fell before she found a lane on the West Coast streets. Rajni was born July 21st, 1970 in Steubenville, Ohio, a quiet blue-collar spot with none of the chaos that later shaped her identity. No turf politics, no neighborhood wars, no gang culture around her at all. She grew up far from anything that looked like the conflict tearing apart Los Angeles in the 90s. Then everything switched up when she moved to Compton, California. It wasn't just a new address, it was a whole different universe. One day she was just a woman from Ohio. The next she was stepping into a city locked in a heavy conflict between Bloods and Crips, where survival meant staying sharp at all times. Compton hit like a shockwave. Every block carried history, every street had stories, and the city didn't slow down for anybody. You either learned fast or got swallowed up. And that's where her transformation really began. But there was a darker reason she dove so fast into that lifestyle. Some things are still whispers from people who were close to her, but they paint a heavy picture. Word spread, especially from names like DJ Battlecat who were around the scene, that she may have gone through a traumatic incident around the time she arrived in Compton. Situations like that can flip a person's whole world, pushing them toward anything that feels like strength, safety, or control. Some believe that's when Rajni Falk stepped into the identity that the streets would later call Bloody Mary. Once she made that move, she didn't just join the Piru Bloods, she became part of their culture on a level most never reach. Her main set was the Avenue Piru in Inglewood, which was wild because they weren't even from Compton originally. They were the first Piru set outside of it. But even without growing up in Compton soil, her loyalty was real and respected. She built deep ties with Avenue Piru and also connected heavily with Fruittown Piru on the east side. She wasn't out here rapping about things she never lived. Her music came from her real experience, and people felt that authenticity instantly.
My girl Nene X, she was from Dayton. She didn't, but she fell in with, with the blood.
Bloody Mary, R.I.P.
Yeah, Bloody Mary.
But here's the twist. Her entry into rap didn't even come from a blood homie. It came from a Crip, a Kelly Park Compton Crip at that. A rapper named Tweety Bird Locke spotted her talent and pulled her into the studio, showing everyone she had something serious. Even with all the street politics around her, her skill cut through every barrier, and the people who heard her knew she was something different. He spotted her raw talent instantly, her drive, her presence, the way she walked in like she already belonged there. He knew there was something powerful in her energy, so he connected her with producer Ronnie Rhyme Phillips, the mastermind behind Dangerous Records. At first, Ronnie Rhyme wasn't feeling the idea at all. A woman spitting a hardcore gang rap wasn't part of his blueprint. But Bloody Mary wasn't waiting for approval. She showed up, demanded her moment, and made it crystal clear she was gonna be part of whatever came next. And that next thing turned into something nobody could have predicted. By 1993, the LA rap scene was exploding. NWA had already exposed the city's underbelly. Ice Cube was shaking tables with truth, and Snoop was turning Long Beach talk into smooth poetry. But underneath all that excitement, something heavier was building. Street members felt rappers were getting rich telling stories that didn't belong to them. They were hearing people profit off their reality without living any of it, and frustration kept growing. Out of that tension came an idea so bold it sounded unreal. Two men, OYG Red Rump 78 from Avenue Piru and Twitty Bird Lock from Kelly Park Compton Crips, built a concept that could have only come from deep in the trenches. What if Bloods and Crips stepped into the same studio, not to battle with violence, but to battle with bars? What if instead of conflict in the streets, they took their rivalry to a mic and turned it into music? Maybe, just maybe, it could lead to opportunities instead of losses. They brought the idea to Ronnie Ron and pitched it as a way for real street members to earn money without risking their lives every day.
Twitty Bird came up with the concept of Bangin on Wax. Me and Twitty Bird took it to Robert Lewis, which was his studio. So he took the idea to Ronnie Phillips, and then that's when the album was made, that's when history was made, and that's when they f***ed us over.
16 people from the neighborhoods would be on the album. 8 Bloods and 8 Crips, speaking their own truth with no filter. That project became Bangin on Wax, and Bloody Mary was right in the center of it. She chose her own name, tapping into something fierce and unforgettable.
Red is the color identified with the Bloods. The Crips wear blue. 16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rappers.
We're trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues, and at the same time prove that we have talents other than just pulling triggers and doing whatever.
But getting Bloods and Crips in one room was far from a smooth process. Early studio sessions were tense. Nobody wanted to sit near the other side. Crips stayed on their side of the room, Bloods stayed on their side, and almost everyone kept something close by for protection. People carried what they brought in from the streets, different kinds of firearms, and the atmosphere stayed heavy. Ronnie Ron had to step into the role of peacekeeper, constantly reminding everyone that inside the studio, things had to be neutral. Whatever issues existed outside needed to stay on the beat, not turn into real conflict.
I mean, I didn't know half the guys, but they came there, no violence. I mean, it was a little confrontation, but when everybody understood, hey man, we're here to make records. We're not here to fight and kill each other. We're here to make records. It was
Even with all that pressure, the work got done fast. The entire Bangin on Wax album was recorded in about 2 weeks. It dropped on March 9th, 1993, and the streets lit up instantly. This wasn't fantasy rap. These were real voices telling real stories from the neighborhoods everybody saw on the news. Both sides took lyrical shots at each other on the record, but even inside the rivalry, people noticed something important. Putting tension on the track was safer, smarter, and way more productive than dealing with conflict the old way.
Later on down the line, we will put these away, you know what I'm saying, and be able to kick it amongst one another without having to say, damn, that's Blood, or I'm a Crip, you know what I'm saying? We can just kick it homeboys, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be black ones, yeah, it's gonna be a black thing.
The album climbed to number 86 on the Billboard 200, and by the time everything settled, it had sold over 500,000 copies. A gold plaque for an underground street project made by people who weren't traditional artists was massive. It proved what many already felt. People wanted truth, raw and uncut, and Bloody Mary made her presence known all over the album. She jumped on tracks like Rip a Crab in Half, No Way Out, and CK Ride. But there's no doubt where she stamped her legacy. Her name will forever be tied to one song, Piru Love. Piru Love wasn't just a Blood anthem. It was a full cultural moment, built on the smooth funk sample from Zappin' Rogers' Computer Love. The track brought together 4 Blood artists, Lil Stretch, Red Rum 78, Lil Leak, CK, and of course, Bloody Mary. It became the most iconic song to ever come out of the Bangin on Wax movement. But what locked it into hip-hop history forever was Mary's opening verse. Even today, music heads swear nobody has topped what she delivered in those 16 bars. She didn't waste a single line. She turned her verse into a full map of the Blood and Piru world across Los Angeles County, calling out sets with perfect accuracy. Mary opened the track by dropping locations like she was reading straight from a living encyclopedia. She spit, now in the biddy of Boatin', Lime Hood is down with the mob, Hollywood and Cross Atlantic off of Boatin' Boulevard. Every town has an Elm Street, but not a Freddy Krueger. Don't get caught in the jungles or a park called Looters. She wasn't throwing names just to sound wild. She was laying down a detailed blueprint that anyone familiar with LA street geography recognized instantly. She let listeners know she was speaking from real knowledge, not exaggeration. Then she kept going. On Rosecrans past Roland at the light. Treetop is to the left. Fruittown is on the right. 151s in Westside Piru slay past dark. And the only other blood hood is Campanella Park. She listed them all: Lime Hood, Hollywood, Cross Atlantic, Elm Street, Treetop Piru, Fruittown Piru, her communities, her history. But she didn't stop there. Mary kept expanding the map, shouting out sets like Bounty Hunters, Outlaws, Rolling 30s, and Six Deuce Brims. Then she stitched together areas across the city: Cabbage Patch, Center Park, Harvard Park, Athens Park, the Scottsdale neighborhood, Hawthorne Waterfront, all Pirus. LA Denver lanes, there's more in Pasadena avenues, Bloodstone, Inglewood family, the Pueblos, Bloodstone villains, Black Peastone, Circle City, and Eastside Bishops got it going on.
Then came the closer, one of the most quoted lines from her whole career. She dropped street names with authority, with the MGs, Queen Street, VNGs, ain't no stopping the Village Town, Eastside Payne, Crenshaw Mafia, Bebop Watts, City Stones, and the Skylines. Don't say cuz blood, this is Piru all the time.
Don't say cuz blood, this is Piru all the time.
That line echoed in neighborhoods long after the song ended. And then came the second verse moment everybody still talks about. She dropped a line that rolled across LA like a shockwave. Piru is Crip in reverse, but the C's on his back. Delivered in her deep, powerful voice, that line became legendary. In just a few words, she broke down street culture and showed why her voice was different, sharp, fearless, and intelligent. She didn't just rap, she delivered a full lesson on identity and history, proving she belonged among the greatest gangster rappers ever to touch a mic. But the biggest twist of all? The hook. The part everybody sang wasn't even done by a Blood. It was performed by Eclipse, a Crip from Compton. That choice showed exactly what the Bangin' on Wax project was really about. Even with the street divines, they created something bigger than the rivalry. With Bangin' on Wax, Bloody Mary didn't just build a reputation, she made straight up history. She stood out not only as the only woman on the project, but as one of the most gifted, sharp-minded voices the gangster rap era ever produced. And with the song blowing up throughout the underground, her next move was already lining up. The streets already knew her name, the critics respected her pen, and people everywhere were tuning in to see what she'd do next. In 1994, she dropped her debut solo album, She's Dangerous, under a new alias, Nene X. It didn't storm the Billboard charts, but that wasn't the mission. This was her chance to prove she didn't need a full posse track or a gang-loaded Cypher the Destroyer beat. She could stand alone and still shake the whole room with her energy. Before that album even hit, she was already making serious noise alongside producer and well-known Crip rapper Tweety Bird Locke. Her link-up actually started back in 1992, before Bangin' on Wax was even a thought. You can hear her raw, uncut delivery all over Tweety Bird Locke's 18-7 Ride By project. Tracks like My D is Prejudice, Coming Out the Cage, and Murder One carried her trademark aggressive style, and she fit perfectly into that gritty, political, street-heavy soundscape. During this era, she also proved that the unity shown during Bangin' on Wax wasn't just for the studio, it was real life. Out of nowhere, a beef popped up from Miami. Luther Luke Campbell, also known as Uncle Luke, dropped a track called Cowards in Compton, throwing disrespect at the whole West Coast and making it seem like Compton wasn't strong. That didn't sit right with anybody on the West Coast, especially Bloody Mary. So she fired back with a diss track of her own called Crush Luke, sometimes known as F Luke. But she kept it clean while still sending the message with power, and she made something big happen with that move. She reached across old battle lines and united Bloods and Crips against one outside voice. She pulled in Red Rum 781, Blood affiliate with his own legacy, and teamed up with Crips like Tweety Bird Locke and AWOL from Kelly Park. For a moment, the usual color lines faded and everybody stood together to show, just like Mary said on the track, there ain't no cowards in Compton, and they were ready to prove it as one crew. That diss track became more than just rap beef. It was a statement of unity, strength, and pride for the whole city. But even with all the fire she was dropping, the business side wasn't treating her right. Like many artists in that era, she ran into a major problem: shady, independent labels. Money wasn't lining up and respect wasn't coming with it. Financial issues with Dangerous Records kept piling up, and she realized quick that she wasn't getting what she earned. Ronnie Ron even admitted years later that he felt like a flunky to the distribution companies, businesses that were taking the big profits while the actual artists received tiny scraps. Once Mary saw how things were being handled, she cut ties immediately. She wasn't chasing fame, she wanted ownership, control, and a real shot at building something lasting. Her break came that same year thanks to one of the most powerful and feared figures in hip-hop at the time, Suge Knight. Suge was running Death Row Records like a full powerhouse, and his ties to Mob Piru meant he already had deep connections and respect in the streets. He heard about Mary, and the moment her name reached him, things started shifting fast. When Suge Knight heard Mary's verse on Piru Love, he was stunned. Her fire, her voice, the way she delivered details with real authenticity, everything about her sound grabbed him instantly. Suge was always drawn to artists who lived their truth, and Mary fit that perfectly. He personally reached out and brought her on to Death Row Records, giving him an upfront payment of $12,000, which was huge for someone fresh off an indie label dealing with messy royalty issues. Just like that, she became part of the Death Row powerhouse. She made an early appearance on Untouchable, a heavy track featuring the Lady of Rage and Storm, proving she could stand strong right next to some of the label's toughest women. Behind the scenes, she was recording non-stop at Can-Am Studios in Tarzana, California. Between 1994 and 1996, she laid down track after track, material that was supposed to become her full Death Row debut album. But Death Row was falling apart piece by piece. Legal problems, internal conflict, and tension kept stacking up. Then came the moment that shook the whole label, Tupac's passing in 1996. After that, everything spiraled. Projects got shelved, plans collapsed, and Bloody Mary's solo album ended up trapped inside Death Row's vaults. Her voice, her ideas, all that potential got locked away while she watched the empire crumble from the inside. Still, she never stopped moving. In 2003, long after the spotlight faded, Dangerous Records quietly dropped a second album under her name called Day of Resurrection. It wasn't a fully new project, but a 22-track compilation pulling together her Bangin' on Wax material, songs from She's Dangerous, and a few unreleased joints that have been sitting untouched. One standout track was By Get Lifted, a sharp, powerful collab she recorded with B Brazy, a blood affiliate with his own legacy. And to remind people of where it all began, she released Piru Love 2002, a refreshed take on her most legendary song. But as powerful as Bangin' on Wax was for her career, the peace inside that studio didn't survive once everyone stepped outside. Somebody who was part of the session said it perfectly. It didn't last long. What started as a symbol of unity eventually turned into conflict again because real life doesn't follow studio rules. Once actual names, affiliations, and neighborhoods were tied to verses filled with threats and intense energy, it didn't reduce tension, it added more pressure to streets that were already struggling. Legendary rapper BG Knockout, known for his work with Eazy-E on Real G's, spoke on how dangerous the whole situation really was. He said he was invited to join the original Bangin' on Wax album, but turned it down.
They wanted me to diss my enemies, to diss the red side, and all these different things. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I was like, what you people trying to do here? Like that's crazy. I wouldn't even be able to live.
From his perspective, the idea was risky from the start. Putting people who already had serious issues with each other into a public, highly provocative lyrical battle could make situations worse. In his words, that approach was crazy, especially during the early 1990s, a period he described as one of the most intense times involving street conflicts. Even with all the talent and passion inside that studio, the reality outside was a lot more complicated. Throwing out heavy, direct insults on a widely distributed record wasn't just risky, it was almost self-destructive.
Insulting entire gangs with the worst type of insults that they can make.
And
it's right there. It's right there in the title.
At the worst era of gangbanging, which was the 1990s. Just think about that. That was side pretty much, you know?
The project made these rappers famous, but it also turned many of them into targets. And the numbers told a heartbreaking story. One surviving member said it bluntly, almost all of them are gone. That's not just sad, that's chilling. Take the DMU Riders, for example, a Bloods collective that came together after Bangin' on Wax 2. These weren't studio artists, they were real frontline members living the life they talked about. Out of the 9 core members, 7 didn't survive, nearly all lost to violence. B Brazy was one of the most memorable voices from that camp, a natural with confidence, charisma, and a sharp flow.
You get ours by death, huh? Basically, where do retirement papers come in, blood? At what age do I turn into a kickback OG gangster or some old shit? Man, that ain't gonna never happen, blood. My goals in life ain't to be an OG, period. For real, blood. YG for life, huh? On lanes, think I'm an old YG, period. That's the best I could.
Being Bloody Mary teamed up on tracks like B Get Lifted, delivering verses that hit hard and carried serious energy. But with that visibility came danger. In May 2003, B Brazy was shot multiple times outside a motel in Inglewood. He was only 28. Then there was Peanut 2 from Denver Lane, a member who lost his life after being shot multiple times in 1995. Lil Laniak was ambushed in his car while his daughter was right there with him. Tiptoe, Spider, the Madai twins from Crenshaw Mafia Bloods, one after another, they were taken out. And it wasn't just Bloods who suffered. Crip artists paid the same price. Eclipse, the same Eclipse who sang that smooth hook on Piru Love, was shot and lost his life in Compton in 1998. AWOL, a Kelly Park Crip connected to the Bangin on Wax era, was lost during a police encounter in 1997. Everywhere you looked, people were being taken too soon. Meanwhile, Red Rum 781, one of Bloody Mary's closest collaborators and a respected figure in Avenue Piru, watched the losses pile up. He helped make Piru Love historic. It was him, Mary, and Eclipse, 3 voices, 3 energies, one unforgettable classic. By 2021, Red Rum was the last survivor of that trio. He later passed from illness, but before he left, he spoke on the heartbreak, the funerals, and the memories of people who never made it past that brief spark of unity on Wax. He said it simply, of the 3 of us on Piru Love, only I lived long enough to tell the story. As for Bloody Mary, she survived things most people could never imagine. She got through the politics of the streets, separated herself from unfair label situations, and watched friends, many of them legendary, lose their battles with a world she knew too well. She walked through situations that could have ended her life many times over, but her fate came from a place nobody expected.
On a regular Monday, November 18th, 2006, Bloody Mary was riding through Compton on her motorcycle, just cruising on her way to a Harley-Davidson event. But Compton can turn calm into chaos without warning. She didn't even see it coming. A truck fleeing officers sped through and smashed into a bike. The impact was devastating. Mary was thrown from the motorcycle, suffering massive trauma, crushed lungs, crushed hips, and serious brain damage. Doctors did everything, keeping her alive with machines and prayers. But after 3 days with no sign of recovery, her family faced the hardest decision imaginable. On November 21st, 2006, they let her go. Bloody Mary passed at only 36 years old. And here's the part that cuts deeper than any rivalry ever could. Nobody was truly held accountable. No names released, no public trial, nothing. Just a hit and run tied to a reckless escape, leaving her loved ones with grief and questions. Her mother traveled from Ohio to bring her daughter's body home, and her family carried the weight of both loss and mystery. It's painful to process. A woman who survived years of street turmoil, who stood at the core of one of the most historic rap projects ever, was taken not by violence over music or street politics, but by senseless chaos on a random day. One of the last surviving voices from that era, Big Y, spoke honestly. Bloody Mary, all of them are gone except me. Almost the entire cast of that once groundbreaking experiment had been wiped out. In his grief, he turned to music like a true artist would do, dropping Piru Love 3000 as a tribute, a rose laid for the people who didn't make it, especially Bloody Mary. He said, "Ra, I know you looking down from above. Rest in peace, Bloody Mary, with much love." A final salute to her strength, her voice, her presence, something that stayed alive even after the microphone went quiet. Even though she's gone, Bloody Mary is etched permanently into West Coast hip-hop history. She wasn't just another rapper. She was the definition of authenticity. She earned her respect the real way, and her voice still hits speakers like a legend whose story stays alive every time someone presses play. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Bloody Mary's incredible legacy, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment. Let me know who you want covered next.